Good afternoon, everybody. It's Courtney King, CNS Services. I've been promising you guys some videos on how I cut my cabs for quite some time. So we're going to go ahead and do the first couple of steps of that today. So your first step is to pick out your slab. This is the slab I've chosen today. It's a piece of Kaleidoscope Prism Stone. That's going to be the first thing I'm going to do with all of my slabs. See if there's any fractures in them. Make sure the piece that I'm going to use is good and hard and isn't going to break on me as I cut a stone. So, the rest of this slab is good. So now I'm going to get it wet. I'm going to just check out my colors. See where it's going to be the best place for me to cut a stone. So as you can see, that's got some beautiful purples, greens in it. As does this side. I like this area right here. It's got some purple, some greens, some blues, a little bit of gold. So that's the area I'm going to use on this particular slab. So normally on a slab this big, I'm going to cut several stones at the same time just to save a little bit of time. But since I'm doing the videos, we're just going to, this is just to show you how long and how I do just one stone. Okay, so I'm going to get that dried off. Keeping in mind where the space I wanted to use was. Now, if you know me at all, you know I like to cut marquee cuts. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to do a fat marquee. So I'm going to take my template. I'm going to do about a 37 millimeter. So if I didn't know which template it was to do a 37 millimeter, I would take my measurer and I would just measure it on my template itself just to see. So that one right there is about 37.5. So this is the one I'm going to use for this particular stone. So I'm just going to lay my template right on top of my stone. Draw out the shape that I'm going to cut. Just like that with my fine tip Sharpie. And that's what I'm going to cut right there. Okay, so now we're going to go over to our saw. That's the end of step one. We're going to move on here to step two because they're both pretty quick. So we're going to go over to the saw and we're going to cut this out into the preform, which we'll use on the machine. And that'll be a separate video. Okay, so I'm going to bring you with me. Hopefully I can get you set up where you can see what I'm doing. Don't mind my apron. All right, so now we're over here at the saw, and this is my saw. I just use a cheap little skill saw that I got from Home Depot for $100, which serves my purposes right now. Eventually, it's not going to serve my purposes. I'm going to need a bigger, better saw. But for right now, this saw does what I need it to do. I'll just go ahead and kind of set you there like that so you can see the blade. I've already filled it with water to the level it's supposed to be filled at. So when I turn this on, it's going to be very loud, so you might want to turn your volume down a little bit. I'm going to put on my goggles. Safety first, always safety first. Put your goggles on, put your mask on, respirator, whatever it is you use. I use my goggles. And I use a 3M N95 mask, which right now I still have a few. Eventually I may not. Then I'll have to figure something else out. But for right now I still have some N95s here. I do reuse them. I don't know if you're supposed to or not, but I do. So this is what I look like when I'm getting ready to use my saw. Safety first, always. Okay? Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the saw on. Volume down, everybody. Turn the saw on. We're going to cut as close to the shape of the stone we want to cut as we can. Okay, to get it to as close to that shape, which is going to allow us to have less shaping on the actual cab machine later. All right, so here we go. Wet saw, always. Water, always. Okay, now, as you can see, I have a rock that is basically the shape of the cab that I want to cut. Alright, so that's your step 1 and 2. I'm going to clean up this saw, get everything ready for step 3, and I'll be back with you in just a little bit. Thanks, guys.